everybody, Donna Schwartz here. I was having a lot of issues trying to get on Facebook Live. For some reason, when I tried it on my iPad, it said the broadcast failed, and that happened like 5 times. Tried it on my iPhone, failed 3 times. I checked my internet connection, it's fine. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, here we are, live. Hey. Before we start, actually, I don't know if you're aware of all the horrible stuff that's happening in Germany right now, in Munich. So, you know, our thoughts and our prayers are for those people. You know, the senseless violence is really, it's horrible. It's senseless, and it's just got to stop. So let's send some good thoughts to those folks and to other people around the world that are suffering from senseless violence. So today what I wanted to talk about, a couple of folks had some questions and I wanted to answer them, and they had to deal with timing, playing certain higher pitches, and basically being in tune. I had a student earlier today, it was very interesting. He said to me, well, how do I, how can I just play these notes without having to hear them? And, it's interesting because here's a little story. When I was growing up, I played trumpet. I still do. And when I went to college, I studied with a phenomenal teacher, and I've mentioned this before, Vince Panzarella from the Philharmonic. And I wasn't allowed to play anything until I could sing it. And he made me sing in fixed do, solfege. So I had to sing everything before I could play it on the mouthpiece, before I could play it on the trumpet. What's the purpose of that? Well, his background is such that when he grew up in Philadelphia, in a very poor part of Philadelphia, and they couldn't afford instruments. So if a young child said that they wanted to play trumpet, well, what would happen is all the students that wanted to play instruments, they would study solfege. They would study singing, sight singing, singing solfege, and they would do that for years. We're not talking 1 year, we're not talking 2, we're talking 3 or 4 years. To the point where they were so fluent with singing and reading and all that kind of stuff, when the instrument came to their hands, they were expressing the music that they've been hearing all these years and singing through their bodies, through the instrument. So he only really played, he did all the sight singing, all the solfege singing for a number of years, and then they gave them a mouthpiece with a valve casing. So you could finger the valves, and then you had your mouthpiece. So he would, again, be playing that. It wasn't even a trumpet yet, for I think a year or 2. Only after that was he given a trumpet. And honestly, once the trumpet came in his hands, it was a lot easier than playing just a mouthpiece and a valve casing. If I remember right, he only played that mouthpiece, that trumpet, he only played for like maybe a year and a half or 2 years before he got accepted into Curtis at the age of 15. Now, if you're not aware of the Curtis School of Music, that's a full scholarship. That's a full ride. Very, very, very few people get in there, and he got in at 15. So his training, the whole point of this is his training was, you got to hear it first, you got to sing it, then you got to do the mouthpiece or whatever you need to do, and then you can play it. If you can't hear it, you won't be able to sing it. So if you're having difficulty singing something, you're really not totally hearing it yet. So some of the things I want to talk about today, like intonation, have to really deal with hearing the pitches. Okay, so someone had asked, they're really working, they've seen some of my other videos on my website, donnaschwartzmusic.com. Check it out, okay? Subscribe. Right now, there's 2 great things. If you're a saxophone player, I've got a great video, 3 tips to fatten up your saxophone tones. It's really awesome. It's helped a lot of people. If you're having issues with finding enough time to practice, well, I've got an article out. It's been out for a little while, but it was just published today by Dancer, with DANSR, which is a newsletter by Van Doren. It's their Wave newsletter. And the article is about time, our enemy. It's the first part of a 2-part series. Check that out because at the bottom there's a little link you can click on, and if you sign up for my newsletter, my weekly newsletter, you'll get access to my Ultimate Practice Planner, which will help you to organize your time so that you'll find enough time to practice. Okay, so anyway, I want to talk first about intonation and what my student said to me earlier. He said, well, how can I just play these notes without having to hear them first? You know what? You're going to make it really hard for yourself if you think of it that way. You see, any wind instrument, it's not like going to a piano and pressing down a key and you get instant gratification. And I'm not saying that, playing piano is easy, because it's certainly not. It's hard. But the thing with the wind instrument, especially if you've got a lot of keys, You know, you can't just stick the mouthpiece in your face and just blow and expect to have that note to be in tune. You know, if it's in tune, well, that's awesome. But there can't be nothing going on here in order to make good sound over here. So I said to him, no, you really need to hear your pitches. Now, it's harder on the alto sax because that's pitched differently. It's E flat. It's an E flat instrument. So if you press down a B flat on the piano, on the alto sax, you're playing a G, and that will match the sound, the pitch. So there's a little bit of transposition that goes on there. If you're playing something like a tenor and you press down a B flat on the piano, well, we've got to go up one note. So we're going to play a C to match that pitch. Now, if you're working on like long tones or interval exercises, or like a slow ballad or a slow, any piece that's very slow and very melodic, you should definitely have your tuner out. And if your tune is very tonal, what you can do is you can have drones playing in the background. Maybe your tune is in the key of C and it's mostly around the C chord. Have a drone playing in the background and listen to what your notes sound like compared to the drone. Listen to what a C, or listen to what a D sounds like with a C drone in the background. It's pretty cool, actually. And you can hear whether you're a little bit sharp or not based on how it's resonating. In fact, you know what? Let's do this for a second. Let's go to iTunes. There's a great CD called the Tuning CD by Richard Schwartz. No, we're not related. No, I'm not an endorser. But I would really strongly encourage you to check that out. What it is, there's a whole bunch of tracks on there in concert pitches, and I use this for tuning, and I use this for working on long tones and interval exercises. And, it really helps to develop your ears. So this may be a little screaming loud. I don't want to do that, but let me go to B flat. So that's my C on tenor. Sound can be a little annoying after a while. All right, what I did was I just really slowed down an interval exercise, and I wanted to listen to how each of the notes related to that C, concert B flat drone. That's a great way to work on your intonation and to hear how the notes relate to each other. So definitely check out the Tuning CD by Richard Schwartz. It should be available on iTunes. That's where I bought it. It's awesome. In fact, let me just make sure. Yeah, that's by him. Unless this is the one by, there's also something by Walter White, too, that also has drones on it as well. The name is escaping me right now, the CD, but check out Walter White, something with tones or something like that. That will help you. I used that a lot in the early days with brass stuff. Okay, so now, someone had a question about playing like the high palm keys, like D, E flat, E, and F. Here's my answer to that. First, I really strongly recommend that you get that CD, the tuning CD. Next thing, have your tuner out. And here's the next thing I'm going to say. You got to hear it. You got to sing it. I'm also going to give you another step, too. I'm going to say sing it into the horn. Okay, and then play it. Now, I'm going to take out something that's archaic. For some of you, it's older than you. That's scary. All right? This is my tuner. Okay, this is a Korg tuner. This is the DTM-12. I don't even know if they make this anymore. I got this in 1984. Yes, and it's still working. I got this because my band teacher at the time had it, and I said, oh, that's really cool. It's a tuner and a metronome. And let me tell you, it's made well. It still works. Why am I bringing the old relic out? Well, and especially since there's so many apps and, all that kind of thing. I'm bringing this out because this tuner has the capability to play a pitch. So I put it on, I press the tuner button, and I can decide what pitch I want to hear. So for example, someone asked me about the palm keys. So I'm going to find C. I'm hearing it. I'm going to sing it and I'm going to check my tuning. I'm going to sing it into the horn. I'm going to finger the palm D. I'm going to play it. That's how I would recommend working on that. So get access to a tuner or an online app that plays pitches, or better yet, honestly, a piano or a keyboard, so you can hear the pitch, hear it, sing it, match the pitch, sing it into the horn, notice what's going on inside your mouth, and imitate that when you're playing. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question with regard to the palm key notes, or really, honestly, it's any note on the saxophone or any wind instrument. Now, does this require time? Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, it will. But here's the thing, and someone said this saying to me a long time ago, and people, how do I put this? I'll just say it. She basically said, it's harder to do the easier thing. So it's harder to just put the saxophone in your mouth and just play. What are you talking about, Donna? It doesn't make sense. It's harder because she's thinking long term and I'm thinking long term. It's harder because if you just put the horn in your face and just blow and, oh, I'm just having a great time, whatever, that's cool. Later on, you may develop bad habits, problems. You're going to get to a note that you're not going to be able to play because you didn't have a solid foundation. You didn't do the hard work beforehand. See, if you do the hard work, you hear it, you sing it through the horn, notice what's going on, and then you play it. If you take the time now and do the hard work, it's easier later, not harder. Okay, so that's my little philosophical tip for today. All right, so hopefully that answered the first question with regard to playing notes on any wind instrument. The next question has to deal with, oh, by the way, that will help your intonation also as well. Because if you're not hearing the note close to being in tune, especially on on the saxophones, E, E with the octave key, not the high one. That note tends to be sharp, okay, especially on a Mark 6. That's just what it is. So a lot of work on that note, which means playing it, on the tuner or getting the pitch, singing it, hearing it, singing it through the horn and playing it. It's going to help your intonation. Okay, the next thing, really quick, is timing. I've run across a lot of students lately who are wondering why they're getting lost in the music. They're wondering why, if they play like in a concert band, they're playing and, then they're counting rests and all of a sudden everyone's coming in and they're just sitting there. Or they're playing a passage and they're wondering why they're still playing and everybody else is done. All right, you could say, oh, well, they don't know how to read rhythms. Yeah, it could be. But really what it is when people first learn how to read music, they just think of the big numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what happens is, let's say you've got a whole note, right? And I'm going to say that we're in 4/4 meter and that whole that whole note's going to get 4 big beats. So let's say I put on my archaic metronome here. I'll put this on 80. Now, instead of just thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what people tend to do. They tend to hear the numbers in their head, but this is what they hear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They speed it up. So the key to good timing is something called subdivision. And you've heard this before. Really what it is feeling and hearing the smaller beats. Now, I emphasize the word feeling. We don't read rhythms, we feel them. Interesting. So when you're learning how to play rhythms, you've got to feel the smaller beats. So if you've got a whole note there, I'm going to put the metronome on again. I'm not just thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm really thinking 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. If I was a drummer, I'd be thinking. Hopefully I did that right. It's a little hard to do that fast. I'm really thinking of the small beats because that locks in the timing. Okay, so now how do you, well, another thing that requires time. Okay, but yeah, again, don't take the easy way out because it's going to be harder later on. In your long tone practice, set up the metronome, put it at 60 or 80 or whatever you want to do, and I'm going to give you 2 steps. First step, you could put the metronome on, divide the beats in 2s. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you want to really feel that as you're playing your long tone. Hear it in your head. If you're seated, you could tap your foot to the big beat and maybe tap another foot to the small beats. Okay? If you're playing a note that requires just one finger or one hand, take your fingertips and tap the small beats on your side. 1 and 2 and really feel those rhythms. That's one way. Here's the other way that most people don't do. A lot of the music that we play is in what's called the duple meter. So you're dividing the beats into 2s. Well, guess what? There's not just 2s, there's 3s. You want to think triple meter. So another suggestion is you put that metronome on again. You divide those big beats into 3s. Doot-da-dee, 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 doot-da-dee. And you feel that, you hear it, and then if you're playing a long tone and it's just one hand, if you're a trumpet player, you're doing it here, tap out the 3s with your fingertips. Tap, 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 like that. That's going to be the first step in starting to feel the small beats. So definitely incorporate that in your long tone practice. When people study with me, I have them go through a certain physical exercises to help feel those big beats and those small beats. And it really helps tremendously. Because if you're just putting the instrument up to your face and just blowing, and not hearing the pitch beforehand and not feeling the small beats, who knows what you're saying? We play an instrument to express ourselves, but we want to express ourselves clearly. It's sort of like, and I do this with my younger kids too, this funny little thing. I say to them, what if I came up to you on the street and I go, "Hiya, how you doing today? I hope you had a good day." Now, obviously I look like an idiot and I sound like an idiot because I didn't articulate. I didn't use my tongue. I did not speak clearly. Well, in order to speak clearly on an instrument, you got to hear it. You got to feel the small beats. You got to sing the pitches that you need. Sing it through the horn. And then as you're playing, feeling those small beats. So I hope that these tips helped you today. I've had some issues with the Facebook Live today for whatever reason. I hope that this recording goes through. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any comments, so maybe I'm speaking to nobody. I don't know. I'm not sure. Hopefully I reach some people. I'll definitely send the replay out. But definitely check out my website, donnaschwartzmusic.com. One of my latest articles is about focus and focusing on the right things and not the things that only focus around you. Remember, music is something to be shared. And in order to share it, we got to get away from our head. And that's really key to having a great performance. So check out my latest article. Sign up. I have weekly newsletters that have tips like what I was talking about today. And that's basically it. Thanks for joining me if you did. If not, thanks for joining me on the replay. You're awesome. Check out my website. Take care. Have a great day.